Welcome back, another episode of the NFL Draft Bible Player Spotlight Show. I am your host, Chris Shanafelt, and today is going to be a good day. We got a great show in store for you guys. Not only will we be joined by an NFL prospect, but we'll also be joined by my good friend David Kromelow, host of the Sports Krunch podcast, to talk about his week in Mobile, Alabama, down at the Senior Bowl, talk about some of the top prospects in the NFL draft, talk about the Super Bowl 52, Philadelphia Eagles, New England Patriots. That's tomorrow. It's already the eve of the Super Bowl. But before we get to that, as I said, we have a prospect joining the show. He is 2018 NFL Draft prospect, and honestly, he's one of the top prospects out there that is really flying under the radar, in my opinion. He was a finalist for the Cliff Harris Award given to the top small school defender in all of the country. He's defensive back Darius Price out of Siena Heights University in Michigan, an NAIA program. And Darius, we really appreciate you taking some time to chat. How's this journey to the NFL draft been treating you?
Man, it's been treating me well. Definitely say it's a process. It's something that I haven't experienced before. I'm definitely enjoying it, even through the tough times of this journey I'm taking. It's very humbling. I'm definitely honored to do it and to be, chosen and to be picked, to really do this opportunity and make the best thing happen for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's always been a dream, and I'm sure coming from a small school, you don't see guys from NAIA programs getting an opportunity very often, and here you are giving this thing a shot. Now, before we talk more about the draft process, Darius, I kind of want to give the people a little bit more information about you, what you have going on over the next few months and all that. But before we do that, I mean, again, let's give the people a little bit more of a feel about you. And with that, I mean, let's talk about the recruiting process. What was the recruiting scene like for you coming out of high school? I mean, how did some of the bigger schools miss out on you? I mean, just there in the state of Michigan, Darius, you have quite a few Division II programs, such as even Saginaw Valley State University, which is, of course, in your hometown of Saginaw, Michigan. Then, of course, you have some of the bigger programs, the University of Michigan, Michigan State. How did you end up at Siena Heights University playing NAIA ball, in Adrian, Michigan, and, not one of these bigger programs because, the tape does not lie. And, again, I mean, and obviously nothing wrong with being at an NAIA program. We've seen what you were able to do. We had guys in the past from NAIA programs go on and play professional ball, but the talent was just it was really overwhelming, and you could see that bigger schools really missed out on this talent.
Yeah, I would say I was a late bloomer and really had to work my way up until you get noticed. Teams really didn't know about our school, even the talent that we had, because of the decline of attendance and also the athletes that, went and left and went off to prep school and everything like that. So I assumed that they just didn't think that talent was there. And eventually, just taking the time just to put, the effort into my training and becoming a better player, going into my senior year without any offers, not knowing anyone that was interested in me or anything like that. I just really dedicated that season to just becoming the best player that I could be in that league, and eventually, teams may have come by, but they thought that there weren't anything there, for them to recruit. Being a late bloomer, Siena Heights, they reached and gave me the offer, and they stuck with me throughout the whole process. I almost had an opportunity to take my talents elsewhere as far as to Northwood, but Siena Heights, they showed more loyalty and more commitment to me throughout the whole process of me even making the decision to go there. So because I was a late bloomer and not really, a lot of teams knew of me, and even knew of the talent that was in Saginaw at my high school, it was definitely a blessing in disguise that Siena stuck out and they just pursued me throughout the whole way. So that was pretty much my journey, being a late bloomer and allowing those things to fall into place as far as Siena taking their time out to really recruit me.
And here you are today, still being looked at as a NFL draft prospect. I know there is certainly NFL draft or certainly NFL interest in you, Darius. And despite coming from a smaller school in Siena Heights, an NAIA program, you still made it to this point. You're going to be practicing in pro day. You played in an all-star game. You've been doing some of the things that guys from Division I and Division II programs have done, despite coming from a smaller school. And I want to get to that in just a second. Coming from a smaller school, what that means to you. Does it give you an added chip on your shoulder? But before we do that, I got to thank some of the coaches in Michigan specifically when they were seeing you there at Siena Heights and seeing you produce the type of career that you had. I got to think there's a lot of regret in some of those coaches over there. And, something I learned really quickly when I got into this whole football NFL draft type business, Darius, is that there's talent coming from all over the country and all different types of conferences, whether it's D1 FBS or NAIA, such as yourself. And if you could play at the next level, those NFL scouts, those pro scouts will find you. Again, I remember talking to Marion wide receiver Chris Shanafelt, who's now with the Indianapolis Colts. And he actually had some things to say about you, and I'm going to play that audio really quick right now, Darius.
All right.
The player I always looked forward to playing against was his name was Darius Price.
Or at least I thought I was. All right, we'll try to get into that in just a second. Let's get back to that though, Darius. I mean, playing at a smaller school, does that give you an added chip on your shoulder? I mean, again, you had an opportunity to participate in a college football all-star game. I'm sure there was guys from some of the bigger programs looking at your helmet asking, where the hell is this guy from? And even I'm sure NFL scouts out there too, maybe. Maybe they may not be too familiar with Siena Heights. Where's that at? I mean, was there guys out there that were asking you those type of questions? How often did you get that question? And, what kind of chip does that give you, being from a smaller program?
A major chip on my shoulder. And it's more so just to know that I have to work twice as hard, not even, if that, even more, just to make myself known. And that really gives me more drive and more than anything, because coming in, I'm always viewed as the underdog because of my status. But when we get on the same field of play, everything's changed. It's all about how you perform. And just how I took it, as far as being down there at Texas at the showcase, it was guys from A&M, TCU, UCLA, different guys from big D1 schools. And me, the only NAIA guy there that's on the All-Star team, got to really showcase what I can do. I did not feel intimidated or anything. I felt like I belonged on the stage. I felt like I really belong here. So, and that was another thing, was my confidence, because I knew that at some point in time where, taking this next step, I knew that I was going to have to believe in myself, even though if no one else did, or even if, all the odds were against me, I knew that I was going to have to go over and beyond. And so that was my whole mindset, even going into the bowl game, even my process now. I know that my journey is different than everyone else's, and you only get this opportunity once. So I really value and I really take kind of take pride in what I'm doing right now, as far as pursuing that dream and not being intimidated by the school and the name. It's just more so, you're a player, I'm a player, and we're going to perform, and may the best man win. And that's my whole mindset as far as his process and how I took it on the field.
Well, you're definitely putting Siena Heights and their football program and the university as a whole on the map, on the scene, giving them a lot of recognition. Here's what former NAIA standout at Marion University, wide receiver now with the Indianapolis Colts, Chris Shanafelt, had to say about the matchups with you.
The player I always looked forward to playing against was his name was Darius Price. He's a corner from Siena Heights, and most corners, in any level, I'm going to be bigger than them. But this kid is 6'2", 215, 220 as a corner, and on top of that, he can turn and run. So he's not a bad player at all, and he always goes really hard against me because I lead the conference in all the reception categories. So he always wants to go out there and just do his best competing and showing everybody that he's a good player. So over the last 3 years, we've battled, and it's been fun. I think he's a great player from Siena Heights.
And again, that was former Marion University wide receiver, now at the NFL, Chris Shanafelt. I mean, not you don't need necessarily comment on those matchups that you had with him, but I'm more so interested in asking you the same question I asked him, and that is best player that you've lined up against. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a wide receiver, Darius, but talk about some of the talent that you've played at the NAIA level. It's proven, guys from that level do get opportunities to play pro as well. Not necessarily as often as Division I, Division II guys, whatever, but there is some legit talent at the NAIA level as well. Who would you say is the best player that you've lined up against, whether it's a quarterback, a running back, receiver, etc.? Is there one guy that really stands out?
Yeah, absolutely. Foremost, Chris Shanafelt was that guy that I look for every year to go against and perform to the best. Actually, quarterback from St. Francis, Nick Ferrer. He's a really talented quarterback, very precise with his throws, and he's a smart guy. I went up against him 3 years in a row, and I really would say that that team who they won the national championship back-to-back 2017 and 2018. Part of their success was because of the quarterback they had in the backfield. And just going against him, and challenging him as he challenged me, I guess it was one of the best opportunities that I had as far as performing on that level and going against a guy of that caliber.
No doubt about it. Again, we're chatting with 2018 NFL Draft prospect, defensive back out of Siena Heights, and finalist for the Cliff Harris Award given to the top small school prospect in the country. He's Darius Price here on the NFL Draft Bible Player Spotlight Show. I'm your host, Chris Shanafelt. And Darius, you're listed at 6'2", 215, and you can see that you bring, first and foremost, great size, athleticism, and physicality to the table right when you play your highlights or your film. What would you say is your biggest strength as a defensive back, and what is one thing you'd like to work on to get better at?
I say my biggest strength as a defensive back is my physicality, and also a lot of people they underestimate my speed, and I say that my speed is also, and also my ability to recognize plays. I say that really helped me out as far as being able to play at the high level that I was able to play at as a strength of mine. Even when going against guys, so I use that as a strength, those three things.
And we're playing some of your highlights right now, man, and just again, looking at the size, the speed, the physicality, man, it really is amazing how many teams and schools overlooked you coming out of high school. And like you said, you were a late bloomer and you made the best out of the opportunity that you were handed. When did it all kind of come full circle, though, for you, Darius? When did it all kind of hit you that you had a legit chance at furthering your football career and that you're going to give this pro football thing a shot?
My sophomore year of college, I was sitting in my defensive backs coach office, and it was after receiving another award, first small conference again back to back, and I felt like I didn't deserve it, but
you'll take it.
I was like, I'll take it, when I look back on it, I really did a lot of great things out there, or good things out there, and he was just talking to me. He was just like, it's possible for you to take it to the next level, if you believe it. And he was like, I believe in you. You have to believe it. And ever since that moment, that day, I was starting to see differently. And I was starting to try to make the dream become more of a reality. And then going into my junior year, after my junior year of spring ball, the first time an NFL team came onto, Siena Heights University campus. And so I was just like, whoa, this is very true. And this is so real now. So I have to even up my level of how I prepare and how I approach the game and what I do on and off the field as far as this nutrition, health, and everything like that to the next level. And so, that's when it really just came at home. to me that it was possible for me to make it to the next level.
Meeting with NFL scouts, I'm sure they've been in and out of Siena Heights University, Darius, and again, in the opportunities you've had since your collegiate career has officially been over, what kind of vibe do you get from those NFL teams that you've met with? How do you think they view you as a prospect for the next level?
I believe that they kind of view me as a strong safety type of player, a guy that's able to play nickel and be able to cover too. Just talking to majority of the scouts, looking at my size and also my film that shows how physical I can be. They really see me in that position, so they will ask me questions about, what I love playing. Maybe one thing, coming into the box one time, or even doing something as far as on any type of package. I will always get that conversation, and I always tell them that that's what I love to do anyways, regardless of where I'm at. I love just playing the sport anyways. But that's the type of feedback that I get from them.
And again, I mean, you bring great size to the defensive backfield. I'll be interested in seeing if teams maybe use you as this new rover, in the box type safety / linebacker position we've seen over the past few years. Dayon Buchanan, guys like that, Mark Barron having a lot of success at that position as well. And, we're playing your highlights as we speak on the screen for the people to kind of see what you're about, Darius. If you had to recommend just one game for an NFL scout to go back and watch, what game would you recommend?
This year I would recommend Concordia University. I think I really had a great game that day. And then also the year before against Marion University, Chris Shanafelt. I know guys would like to see that too as well. So those two games that I would like to recommend.
All right, no doubt about it. And hey, you obviously could bring a lot to the defense, to a defense, but how about special teams? I mean, especially playing at the next level, they're going to ask you probably to play a lot of special teams, especially to start your career. And we've seen that you've been able to have a big impact on that as well, whether it's punt return. I know you've had a couple of those throughout your career. I mean, how much pride do you take in special teams as well?
I love special teams. I will say that those are the game changers. That right there define how far the game is going to go, and whether a team wins or loses. From what I've experienced through college, and so being a special team player, I know that even coming from where I am, I know that that's going to be my spot coming in. So I'm definitely prepare for it. If I have to bust the wedge, I will do it.
I love it, man. I love it. I'm sure teams love hearing that as well. Again, he's Darius Price, the defensive back out of Siena Heights University, 2018 NFL draft prospect, joining us here this morning. And Darius, a couple more questions for you, then we'll let you go. Really appreciate your time. What are your plans for Pro Day? I mean, are you training at a facility right now? What's going on with that? And what about the Pro Day itself? I mean, are you going to try getting into a bigger university's Pro Day? Will Siena Heights hold a Pro Day, or is that kind of still in the works?
Well, I will have my Pro Day on March 23rd at the University of Michigan.
Oh, nice.
So that's definitely a blessing and a great opportunity for me to perform and showcase what I can do. So right now I'm currently training with Stan Edwards, the former Michigan native and also six-time NFL player. He is my coach right now as far as my strength and conditioning and speed. And then also I will be going with a few other trainers as well who will help, take my game to the next level as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, especially for a smaller school prospect that really just needs a big opportunity. I mean, that Michigan Pro Day is going to be huge. And you got any goals, any expectations you'd like to share with us, man? What are some of the numbers you have written down on your notebook that you'd like to hit on Pro Day?
My 40. Okay, all right. So really wanted to be a surprise, but my 40, I'm definitely pushing for a low 4.5, high 4.4. That is my goal as far as that. They're definitely reachable based upon my base numbers. And also, I would say for my broad, at least a 10-6, 3 cone, 4 flat, 4-1, low 4-1. L drill, maybe hopefully I'm shooting for 6, 6'8", 6'7". My vertical, which who knows what that will be, but I'll just throw a number out there. I'll say 36, 35. Those are my numbers. That's what I'm shooting for, and I believe that they're very attainable.
Hey, you guys heard it here first. Again, looking for a big pro day at the Michigan Pro Day, University of Michigan, UM. It's going to be a big opportunity for you. Final question. Let's say we have all 32 NFL general managers. They're tuned into this very interview. Why should they want the defensive back out of Siena Heights University, Darius Price, part of their team?
Well, I would say that you're going to get a player that you've never seen before. No one that you've come across, have the intangibles or are able to do what I can do. I know that, me being the player that I am, I'm willing to put forth my best effort in making the team win and helping the team, reach its ultimate goal, which is the championship. So, that's my whole mindset. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm willing to do, and that's what I'm going to do. Whoever chooses me.
Well, you know what? You brought up one thing, and that's a championship, the ultimate goal for any team at any level. And I see the smile on your face. Who do you got winning the Super Bowl? Super Bowl 52,
man.
Patriots, Eagles. Who you got?
All right, so I'm kind of torn between them because I would love to see the Eagles win, but you're going against the GOAT, Brady. So who knows? It's a toss-up in my eyes, but I want to see the Eagles win and take it today. Take it tomorrow.
All right, yeah, hey, I've been saying it all week. I mean, my heart says Philly, my head says New England, man. It's so tough to bet against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. I mean, you thought they had it, or you thought Atlanta had it last year, and then just when you began writing off the New England Patriots here, they come back and win it in overtime. So, yeah, I think I'm with you. I'm pulling for the Eagles, but it's a tough one, man. It's a tough decision, and all I'm hoping for is a great game. And with that said, Darius, certainly wishing you all the best. Thank you very much for taking the time to chat with us this morning. And again, man, we're going to be keeping an eye out on you for the Michigan Pro Day. And again, we'll be looking forward to see where you land. Again, wishing you all the best. Any final words?
Just thank you for the opportunity, man, and I'm willing to, see what the future unfolds.
Absolutely.
Glory to God. Let's make things happen.
Again, there he is, Darius Price, the defensive back out of Siena Heights, NAIA program, looking to go pro, 6'2", 215. Very talented defensive back. You guys seen some of his highlights throughout the interview. Can make big plays, and again, I mean, this is a guy to certainly keep your eye out on come the 2018 NFL Draft. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll be chatting with David Kromelow of the Sports Krunch podcast to talk more about Super Bowl 52, the Senior Bowl, and who should be enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That's up next. Thanks again, Darius Price, for joining the show.
Thank you.
And again, stay tuned, everybody.
All right. Peace.
All right, welcome back to the, it was the NFL Draft Bible Players Spotlight Show. Now we welcome in David Kromelow, host of the Sports Krunch podcast. Give him a follow on Twitter. David Kromelow joins the show now, fresh off of a week in Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl. And we'll start the conversation there, David. What was the experience like down in Mobile, Alabama? And what was it like to watch some of the country's best prospects go at it for a whole week?
Oh, man. All I could say is, you can't describe it, but this was easily one of the 3 to 5 best weeks I have ever spent in my life. It's like a kid in a candy store if you love football, going to the Senior Bowl. Getting to talk with coaches and scouts from around the league. Getting to talk with reporters whose work I've been familiar with over the years, and getting to interview these reporters and these players. It was just the week of a lifetime. And if you aspire to be covering this for a living, you are highly encouraged to go down to the Senior Bowl next year. It's a lot of fun, and it's a big stepping stone for you. That's all I can say. And in terms of the prospects, it was especially interesting being down this year, given the presence of Baker Mayfield and Josh Allen, 2 quarterbacks in this quarterback-heavy year, both in free agency and the draft. And given the performances of both players this week, they could very well be top 10 picks.
No doubt about it. Obviously, 2 guys that a lot of people paid a lot of attention to, probably the most highly thought of prospects heading into the Senior Bowl. And let's start off right there with Baker Mayfield. There's a lot of thought that maybe he won't play the game on Saturday. He did end up playing the first half. He arrived late to Mobile because of some family issues he's been dealing with. What was your takeaway from Baker Mayfield? It sounds like he really earned himself a lot of money, really helped his draft stock that week, and he could be a name that a team could select in the first round.
Oh, most definitely. Baker Mayfield, important to know that his mom got seriously ill last week, and he had to be with her in the hospital for a bit, and that's why he arrived late, and he wanted to go back home to be with her, and that's why he only played 2 series on Saturday, and that makes perfect sense. You shouldn't fault Baker Mayfield for doing that. It showed the scouts. It addressed some of the concerns about his off-the-field characters. There still are a lot of concerns about him, as there should be, dare I say, but based on the devotion that he showed to his mother, plus the measurables he got, some people feared that he would be under 6 feet tall. He was 6 foot and 3/8 of an inch. Some people thought his hand size would be just above 9. They're 9.5, which are bigger than both Phillip Rivers and Derek Carr. So his measurables couldn't have gone better. And in practice, he was showcasing that anticipation and accuracy that shows that unlike most spread quarterbacks and quarterbacks just barely over 6 feet tall, this guy has a legitimate chance to be a very successful NFL quarterback, and somebody will easily bite on him in the top 10.
And what about Josh Allen, David? I mean, a lot of people think he could really go number 1 overall in the 2018 NFL Draft. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about his performance throughout the week down there in Mobile. I heard he had a lively arm. But that isn't necessarily always a great thing. What did you take away from Josh Allen and the Wyoming quarterback's performance down in Mobile with some of the best in the country?
He has talent in spades. As you mentioned, he has a big arm, but I completely agree. Having a big arm is absolutely not a thing to rave about because, for example, everybody was raving about Jay Cutler's arm coming out of college and when he was still in the league, and he won more games than he won you games. And Josh Allen, his big problem is, yes, he does have a big arm, but is he consistent and is he accurate? Like he did throw, to his credit, he did show that he could throw with touch and finesse on the ball as he showed in this game on Saturday, and as practice is progressed throughout the week, he got better at that. But when it comes to those short 5-yard out routes, he just sails the ball over the head and into the stands almost. It's Josh Allen is a wild roller coaster, and that 56% completion percentage at college should give every quarterback needy team drafting in the top 5 that does not get Kirk Cousins, that is, pause. because the only quarterback who had such a completion percentage in college that was able to have a successful NFL career was Brett Favre, and that is it.
Well said, well said. David, who would you say, all right, so if you had to pick one guy that kind of helped their draft stock the most and then one guy that struggled, who would be those two guys? I know you're really high on Will Hernandez, the offensive lineman out of, is it UTEP?
UTEP.
And I know he had a really big week and really helped his draft stock. We were talking a little bit about the struggles of Josh Allen. I'm not sure if he's the guy you would go for that struggling spot as well. But obviously the Senior Bowl, these college football all-star games, they're supposed to really only help prospects, but there are a few guys every year where it does turn out to hurt. Who would you say is one guy that kind of caught your eye unexpectedly for the good, and then who's one guy that kind of struggled and that may have hurt their draft stock more so than helped it?
And as there are two names, or three names actually, I can point out that really helped their stock. Keep in mind, being a fantasy football aficionado, and also for the record, I always admit X's and O's, but given my fantasy football background, I was naturally paying the most attention to the offensive skill position players. And two guys that stood out to me on that front were wide receivers Deshaun Hamilton from Penn State and DJ Chark from Hamilton. Showed his slick route running throughout practice all weekend. Yes, his hands might not be the most consistent, but he was catching balls and he and Baker Mayfield hooked up for a touchdown, and Baker perfectly anticipated the route, and Deshaun just went into the right place and found the soft spot. And Baker just fit that ball perfectly in double coverage. It was perfectly executed by both guys. It was the best play of the week for me. And Ben Fennell, an NFL draft analyst that I really respect on Twitter, you can follow him on Twitter at @BenFennell_NFL. His comparison to Deshaun Hamilton was Doug Baldwin, and that might not be a stretch. And also DJ Chark. Chark is a great route runner too. Route running is one of the two biggest areas or skill sets I look for in a wide receiver. And DJ Chark, as you saw in the game on Saturday, he was getting open left and right, and he was doing the same in practice too. And both of those guys can be tremendous value as early as day 2, if not day 3. So if you're a wide receiver needy team like the Chicago Bears, for instance, I would say it's better to get a Deshaun Hamilton or DJ Chark in round 2 or 3 than it is a Calvin Ridley in round 1. But that's just me.
Oh, I completely agree with you. I think there are more wide receivers, and I think this is actually pretty nice group of wide receivers in this year's NFL draft that you could go ahead and get a receiver in the 3rd, 4th round instead of taking one, number 8 overall, if you're the Chicago Bears. Again, he's David Kromelow. You can give him a follow on Twitter at DCromNFL, at Sports Krunch. He's the host of the Sports Krunch podcast. And David, you do some great work over there. Great work throughout the week down in Mobile, Alabama. And And you mentioned receiver Deshaun Hamilton. He's the guy I was able to see down in St. Pete. He got the call up to the Senior Bowl. I thought maybe Darius Fountain, the University of Northern Iowa receiver, probably earned that more than Hamilton did. Regardless, Hamilton got the call, and it sounds like he had a great week down there in Mobile. Any final takeaways from the Senior Bowl? Any other notes you had written down that people should kind of expect or hear about from your week down in Mobile?
Yes, a lot of people talk about the quarterback class this year, and rightfully so, and the running back class this year, and rightfully so. But the interior offensive line class, not just Will Hernandez, I think could be the story of this year's draft. I've been tweeting with the hashtag Year of the Garden Center when a respected analyst tweets out a video clip or an analysis of one of these guard or center prospects. Speaking to some scouts and also to Daniel Jeremiah down in Mobile, I asked them, do you think the center and guard position are becoming almost as valuable or equally as valuable as the offensive tackle position? And one of the scouts told me that I think that's already the case, given the players in this league like Fletcher Cox, who you'll see tomorrow, and Aaron Donald. Plus, look who's coming into the NFL next year. Defensive tackles that can rush the passer and stop the run. And Ed Oliver from Houston, Dexter Lawrence from Clemson, Rashawn Gary of Michigan, Raekwon Davis of Alabama, etc., etc. That is the highlight of the draft class of 2019. And I know it's important to have guys that can block the Von Millers and the Khalil Macks and the Jadeveon Clowneys, but you need guys to block the Fletcher Coxes, the Aaron Donalds, and the Calais Campbells as well. Those guys are equally as important to block, and don't explain to me otherwise. This is a very deep guard center class. It's not just Quentin Nelson, who I think is a top 5 pick. It's not just Will Hernandez, who could be a top 15 to 20 pick, or Isaiah Wynn, who could sneak into the if not higher if he tests well at the combine. You got a couple great centers, Billy Price from Ohio State, James Daniels of Iowa, Frank Ragnow of Arkansas, and another guy who increased his stock in Mobile was Austin Corbett from Nevada, left who switched inside to center last week, and I walked by him after practice, and before I interviewed him, Bill Polian was talking to him, saying that he was the best at his position that stood out to at least him that week. This is a very deep center and guard class. You need guys who are able to block the Aaron Donalds of the world, and it won't be shocking to see 3, 4, if not 5 guards or centers being drafted in the top 40 to 50 picks, if not sooner.
Well, the game is won in the trenches, and we've seen, like you said, this weekend, we have a very important week in football with the Super Bowl, with the Pro Football Hall of Fame enshrining, and today is a big day as we find out who will be getting the call to Canton. We'll find out who will be going to Canton and will be voted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, David, and a list of the enshrinees are on the screen right now, and there's some really big names such as receivers, Terrell Owens, Randy Moss. I'd like to see both of them get in. Do 2 receivers get in the same year? I don't know. You, of course, got the linebackers, Ray Lewis, Brian Urlacher. Do those 2 get in the same year? I don't know. And of course, this is their first year being eligible, as is Randy Moss. It's a star-studded list, as it always is. Who would you like to see get in to the Pro Football Hall of Fame tonight?
Well, first, let me say that I do not envy the job of the Pro Football Hall of Fame Board of Selectors. They have a brutal job year in and year out, and they make extremely tough decisions year in and year out, and I totally admire and respect them for that. Ray Lewis is the big slam dunk here. Brian Urlacher is extremely deserving, let me say that, but I personally don't think he gets in this year because it is rare to have 2 members of the same position being in the same class, although with a little warning, that wasn't the case last year when we had both LaDainian Tomlinson and Terrell Davis, both running backs, enshrine into Canton. So Ray Lewis is a lock. I hope if there's 2 at the same position, it's wide receiver. Terrell Owens to get over whatever character bias they might have, and they have to stop being stubborn by not inducting receivers in on first ballot. Randy Moss, you could argue Moss and T.O. were only the second and third best wide receivers, only to Jerry Rice. And plus there's a log jam at wide receiver that's forming. You got guys who are also deserving like Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt. And in the next 5-7 years, you'll have Larry Fitzgerald and Reggie Wayne. They have to clear that log jam by getting Randy Moss and Terrell Owens in this year. Another guy I want to see is Alan Faneca. As I mentioned, the guard position is becoming increasingly important, and Alan was one of the pioneers of how to play the position in this day and age. And he was a 6-time All-Pro, and I'm sure you know All-Pro is more heavily weighted than Pro Bowls when it comes to Hall of Fame voting. Alan Faneca, his 6 All-Pros are just a slight edge above Steve Hutchinson's. I would put Alan Faneca in this year. Will Shields had to wait 2-3 years. Alan Faneca's already waited 2 years. It's time to get him in. And the 5th one was tough. Like I said, Brian Urlacher, extraordinarily deserving. If he doesn't get in this year, I hope he gets in next year with Ed Reed, Tony Gonzalez, and Champ Bailey, personally. But there are too few safeties in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We need more safeties in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And John Lynch was the 3rd and final piece of the Great Wall of Tampa in the late 90s and the early 2000s. Because of him, Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks, you couldn't attack that defense in the middle of the field, and that defense delivered one of the best season performances in 2002, almost single-handedly leading that team to a Super Bowl. it's time to get John Lynch in the Hall of Fame. And I'm not saying this because I'm a Broncos fan. John Lynch is a Tampa Bay Buccaneer to me, first and foremost. He will go into the Hall of Fame as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. It's time to make him join Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks in Canton. So my 5 modern era choices I would vote for today, in conclusion, Alan Faneca, Ray Lewis, John Lynch, Randy Moss, Terrell Owens.
Hey, and there's no disputing it. Like you said, I mean, they're all very deserving, and really it's just a matter of time when some of these guys will get in. I mean, again, it's a star-studded list, as it always is. Ray Lewis, first ballot. Randy Moss is his first year being on the ballot. Do they put in both receivers? Again, it's rare, but it certainly is possible. And again, they're both deserving. They're all deserving. And, obviously being here in Chicago, David, obviously a lot of eyes will be on Brian Urlacher and Ray Lewis. Does only one get in? Will they allow both of them to get in on the first ballot? We'll see. It's going to be very interesting. We'll find out about that tonight. David, let's touch on Super Bowl 52, Philadelphia Eagles, New England Patriots, the Nick Foles-led Philadelphia Eagles, and the Tom Brady-led New England Patriots. What is this game going to come down to, and who do you see ultimately winning the ring?
Before we get into that, I would like to say this. What the Philadelphia to, in my opinion, is the 1A to Tom Brady's 1 in terms of who is the MVP this season. The job that Doug Peterson and that staff have done with that team, plus the Howie Roseman, Joe Douglas in the front office, has been remarkable. They have built a team that is set to compete for championships for years and years to come. And the Eagles, regardless of what happens in this game, the future will only get better and brighter for them. I am confident of that. I honestly think the Eagles have the personnel to still make this a competitive game, even without Carson Wentz. What gives Tom Brady the biggest problems? Interior pressure, and they got arguably at least one of the top 2 defensive tackles in the game in Fletcher Cox, who has been wreaking havoc all year. And given the weapons around him on that defensive line and the depth around him on that defensive line, Jim Schwartz could very well create a lot of matchups against the suspect Patriots offensive line that could free him to wreak some havoc in tomorrow's game. And I think the Eagles do keep it close for most of the game, but it's going to come down to how often can they get to Tom Brady. If they can't get to Tom Brady consistently, they're in trouble. But if they can harass him like the Broncos did a couple years ago in the AFC Championship and like the Giants did in Super Bowl 42, they have more than a legitimate chance.
No doubt about it. And, it's so hard to doubt Tom Brady. And, I've done it in the past, and he's proven me wrong. And a lot of people did it last year when they were down 28-3 against the Atlanta Falcons in the Super Bowl. So with that said, I'm going with the New England Patriots to win this one. Yes, Philadelphia, what they've done this season has been beyond impressive. How they've gotten to this point, and the blowout in the NFC championship game against a very good Minnesota Vikings team was really that really impressed me. I didn't see that coming at all. So just to get to this point, especially with Carson Wentz, like you said, I mean, in my opinion, he probably would have been the MVP of the league if he never went down with that knee injury, I believe, Week 14 against Los Angeles. Regardless, you got to move on, and that's what they've done. Nick Foles has played well enough for them to get to this point, and a great defense led by that defensive line, one of the best defensive lines in all of football. But I'd love to see Philadelphia win. I'll be the first to tell you, my heart is saying fly, Eagles, fly. But, if I was a betting man, I'd go with the New England Patriots. I think they win this game. Think it's going to be a good game, hoping for a good game. That's all I really hope for. That's all I really care for is for it to be a good game. And, if it's anything like last year's game, I will not be disappointed at all. So I'm going to say the New England Patriots ultimately win this one. David, do you have a final score? How do you think this game's going to kind of pan out?
I do indeed have a final score, and I completely agree with you. You just cannot bet against Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. For the record, last year, when they were up when the Falcons were up 28-3, or when they were up 21-3 at halftime, I tweeted at halftime that Tom Brady is going to find a way to come back and win this game, and he proved me right. Tom Brady is the NFL's equivalent of Michael Jordan. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it right now. He is the best player to ever play the game of football, regardless of position. And the version of Tom Brady teamed up with Hall of Fame coach Bill Belichick is the equivalent to the partnership of Michael Jordan and Phil Jackson. And they matched Jordan and Jackson with their 6th championship this Sunday. You just can't bet against a duo like Brady and Belichick. They come out and win 28-20.
Okay, I like it, and hey, I'll be more than happy if it's a close game. I'm going something similar. I mean, I'm thinking maybe like a 27-18 type of game, New England. And again, Philadelphia, congratulations. It was a great season, but until Tom Brady proves me wrong, I'll keep rolling with Brady, Belichick, and the New England Patriots. And with that said, David, that's all I have for you. Really appreciate you taking some time to chat this morning. Any final words? Let the listeners know where they can check out your work at.
Feel free to follow me on Twitter at Sports Krunch, and remember that is Crunch with a K. Also visit my website at sportskrunch.com where you can Senior Bowl and before and after, and please follow us because we have a lot to talk about in the weeks ahead. Yes, the playing season ends after tomorrow night, but these next 3 months and these next 6 weeks in particular promise to be one of the wildest so-called off seasons the NFL has had in modern memory. Look at who's going to be hitting the open market. You got Kirk, a slew of other quarterbacks at a quarterback-heavy draft. This is going to be one of the wildest roller coaster rides in modern memory, and Stretch will have you covered from start to finish. So please follow us at Sports Krunch on Twitter and subscribe to our website at sportskrunch.com, and you could also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. So if you want great coverage of this wild NFL offseason, please give us a follow.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, the season comes to an end tomorrow, but the fun's just beginning, David. I mean, it's going to be a crazy NFL draft process. Of course, you got the combine next month, and then with that, you got a slew of pro days, and of course, the 2018 NFL draft itself, free agency, and so on and so forth. It's going to be a lot of fun, and like you said, a lot of craziness. Will be seen throughout these next few months into the NFL off season. If you call it that, I mean, really there is no NFL off season. It's a year-round sport. But David, as always, really appreciate you taking some time. It's been a lot of fun. Let's do it again.
Amen, Chris. Let's do this again very soon.
All right, there he goes. That's David Kromelow, host of the Sports Krunch with D. Crom Show. And you can follow him on Twitter at DCromNFL, at Sports Krunch, and check out his website, sportskrunch.com. With that said, special thanks to Darius Price, 2018 NFL Draft Prospect, for giving us a call earlier in the show, talk about his collegiate career and the 2018 NFL Draft process, where he's training at for his pro day, and etc. And of course, special thanks to David Kromelow for talking some Senior Bowl and Super Bowl and Pro Football Hall of Fame and who he thinks should get that call to Canton tonight. And with that said, that'll wrap up today's show. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, everybody.